If you look across Pistons land right now, people are upset. The pitchforks are out unequivocally. It's not quite like DEFCON 5 or DEFCON 1, whichever one is worse, because everything they did was kind of on the margins, right? We didn't even go get a guy like Tobias Harris, which is good that we didn't. It would have been insane if we did. What he's doing in Philadelphia is way more important than what his mission would be in Detroit, like especially with no Joel Embiid. Like, they need Tobias Harris. I'm very happy Daryl Morey didn't do that, right? Everything else, though, was just kind of like I guess that's fun. Like, so it just kind of was bleh. It was boring. You know what I saw? I saw what we've been waiting for all year, which was a team from the front office down to just like operate like an actual basketball team. How many years have we, and we'll get to the bad stuff. I'm not very happy about this deadline, but let's start with the good stuff. How many years have we looked at the Pistons, even under Troy Weaver's watch, and they had actual shit that they could sell off, and they just didn't? For some inexplicable reason, they just didn't. They were like, no, we're actually going to hold on to this value, and we think it's going to appreciate over time. All the time, constantly. And if nothing else, this was the closest, Pistons fans, that we could ever get to Troy Weaver being in his like 2018 Cavs at the deadline era. By the way, the Pistons have like 7 wins on the season this season. 5 of them have come on the day that either the Pistons or the team that they're playing have made a trade. Of those 5 wins, I think 3 of them were us making a trade. And then I swear we played the Knicks or the Raptors on the day of the OG trade. I think it was the Raptors. But 5-0 when the Pistons or the team they're playing made a trade this year. It's a damn shame the trade deadline is come and gone, because that means that the Pistons are not guaranteed to win a game the rest of the season. Or at least guaranteed to have the opportunity to, which is too bad. But everything that Detroit was doing, especially early on with the Fontecchio trade in Utah, it felt like they were operating on the margins in a way that was positioning themselves for what they've always done. Under Troy Weaver's watch, this valuing of cap space as if it's going to be the end-all be-all, this will be what drives us. This will be what gets us out of the hole. It's blind faith that you're going to be able to do something with that money, and it extends your timeline in the chair with upper management and even with the fans, because it's like you can point to this really big, shiny number and say, this is what we're going into the summer with, is this number right here. You can't convince me that they're not going to do something dumb with that, is the thing. Because what ends up happening is you give Joe Harris $20 million just to find out that we don't actually like to play him that much, and his knees also don't really work. And when he does play in the games, it's like he's not really Joe Harris anymore. He's just not. So you gave that guy a bunch of money, and then he's not on the team anymore. He's gone, inexplicably. As quickly as he arrived, he was gone. I'm not going to get mad retroactively about the Jeremy Grant contract. That worked. A whole relationship worked in Detroit's benefit, whatever. But at the time, we were all kind of like, what? Like, huh? Hey, the market's the market. You had to pay him something, right? If we didn't pay him that, Denver was literally going to give him the exact same contract. Would it have made more sense for Denver? One would argue it would have. So let's go down some of these trades. I was very famously annoyed at the thing that kicked all of this off, which was like a month ago at this point, Marvin Bagley going to Washington. I was upset that, like, you have this log jam up front with a bunch of bigs. Most of them can't play. Marvin Bagley actually kind of proving, wait, is he kind of an NBA player now? Like, yeah. One of the only dudes on the team who actually knew his role and like understood his value and when he was at his best. Traded him. Okay, you got Danilo Gallinari, but not on the team anymore, by the way, and Mike Muscala. And even though I've kind of given up on watching the Pistons a little bit, they tell me Mike Muscala has been playing well for Detroit. So we'll see, right? But then we move forward. Oh, also Isaiah Livers was gone. So the Pistons trade Monte Morris to Minnesota. We get Shake Milton and Troy Brown and a 2030 second-round pick. Okay, cool. Stock the cupboard with second-round picks, Troy. I don't know what's going on with Shake Milton these days. He like went to Minnesota and they were like, don't shoot the ball. I swear to God, if you shoot the ball, you're off this team. They'll just like yank him. I don't know what's going on with that. Troy Brown 2 years ago, I would have been like, whoa. Now I'm just like, okay, body, if nothing else, NBA player to get us through the rest of the season. Because it's also, just to derail myself for a second, the Pistons weren't going to do anything at the deadline that fixed this. There is nothing that Detroit could have done at the deadline to like make this better or to make the bleeding stop. All they could do is look to the future and figure out what do we want to achieve in 6 months and how can we position ourselves now to get there. That's what they had to do. And I think that's what they did a good job doing. Whatever the plan ends up being, and it's clear that they're just like going to offer Miles Bridges a shit ton of money. It's a completely different conversation. But it's clear that they want to do something like that, right? Tobias Harris, whoever it ends up being. Like, that's what they want to do. And if that doesn't work, what's plan B? First of all, I don't believe they have one, but what it will end up being is like trade for a disgruntled star. Maybe that's when they swoop in on like DeJounte Murray. Maybe that's when they're like, Trae Young, like, what is he up to? And they're like, here's Asar Thompson and Jaden Ivey. Have fun with Jaden Ivey and DeJounte Murray, by the way. Here's like Asar Thompson, Jaden Ivey. I'm just throwing shit out there, right? That's what their plan B is probably going to be, and it's going to suck, and we're all going to hate it. Yeah, then we got Fontecchio from Utah for like nothing. For like nothing at all. That was actually like a, whoa. It had the trappings of, is Tom Gores and Arn Tellem, like, are they out of the kitchen for this deadline, and they're just going to let Troy Weaver do Troy Weaver shit? Because I know that it's easy to look at a lot of his moves and be like, no, he actually doesn't know how to make trades. Like, look at the Wiseman deal. That did not work at all. But Fontecchio was the guy who, I don't know if you guys remember, we played the Jazz like 2.5 months ago, 3 months ago. And honest to God, for the first time in like 5 or 6 years, a guy walked onto an NBA court. I had no idea who he was. I couldn't clock him at all. I didn't recognize his number, didn't recognize his haircut, nothing about him. I was like, I have no idea who this guy is. Guess who it was? It's Fontecchio. He ended up, by the end of that game, dude, he was giving us buckets, and I was irate. I was like, who the hell is this guy? Not only do I not know who he is, but he's really good. Well, we have him now. He's on our team now. Little floor spacer. I like it. I'm on board with it. Fun little move. Again, on the margins. Oh, also, I say we gave him up for nothing. Kevin Knox was in the deal. So I guess, yes, we did give him up for nothing. Kevin Knox, yeah, I put together a few solid games this year. You guys let me know about it every single time. You see that Kevin Knox game? I did every single time, by the way. But I stand by what the overall sentiment of his career is, which is just like, stop playing basketball. Go do something else, please. Pistons get Daniel House from Philadelphia, and then ended up waiving him. And so there was like 2 hours where I was like, oh my God, the guy who was so horny that he almost compromised the NBA bubble in Disney is on our team. I like it. So this original trade comes out that Alec Burks gets traded to New York. And what was it? It was like Quentin Grimes and 2 seconds is what it was. Was that part of it? And we were all like, oh my God. Quentin Grimes was actually a member of the Motown Noah All-Star team his rookie year before he even played a game. The 2021-2022 Motown Noah All-Star team, coached by Avery Johnson. We had Cade Cunningham, Luke Kennard, Miles Bridges, Nick Claxton, Isaiah Stewart, Kobe White, Colin Sexton, Jeff Green, Rashawn Holmes, Naz Reid, had some vision on that one, Quentin Grimes, Dwight Powell, and Josh Christopher. You get Quentin Grimes for Alec Burks. We're all like, whoa. Like, that's a good deal. And then Woj like really buries the lead. And it's like, actually, Bogdanovich is in this trade too. And you're like, what? You're like, huh? And he's like, yeah, Malachi Flynn, Ryan Arcidiacono, and Evan Fournier are also going to Detroit. And this is where people really drew exception, because it's like, so we didn't get a first for Bogdanovich. Not only did we just not get a first for Bogdanovich when we were told a year ago that somebody offered 2 first-rounders for Bogdanovich, but the Knicks also, and I have this screenshotted here, the Knicks were also able to acquire OG Anunoby, Bojan Bogdanovich, Alec Burks, and Precious Achiuwa without giving up a single first-round pick. If I was just a general NBA, if I wasn't a Pistons fan, I didn't have skin in any of these trades that happened, not a Raptors fan, not a Knicks fan, I'm pissed looking at this. I'm pissed being like, why did teams let this happen? So imagine how I feel being one of the teams to have let this happen. I'm disgusted by it. But I think what's also true is if they could have traded Bogdanovich for a first, don't you think they would have done it? That's what bothers me, is the people who are like, this is basketball negligence. Like, if you wanted to get something for him, and even if half of the guys they traded for, they didn't even end up keeping. The same way that with Daniel House, it's like, oh my God, for like 2 hours. For like 2 hours, I'm like explaining to my girlfriend, no, Ryan Arcidiacono, he's played in like 20 straight games and he hasn't scored a point. No, Ryan Arcidiacono, like fucking game-winning assist to Chris Jenkins in the national championship game against North Carolina. Ever heard of him? Passed Chris Jenkins the ball very famously in that moment. Ever heard of him? And then like 2 hours later, not on the team anymore. Oh, okay. Bye, Ryan Arcidiacono. But again, like, Troy wasn't like, I have this one offer on the table and I could get a first, or I could just do this other deal. And like, he didn't do that. Everything they did, believe it or not, was probably calculated in some sort of a way that, again, they're just trying to position themselves for what they want to do in June and what they want to do in July. Even if we end up hating that, even if we don't agree with it. I kind of like what Detroit did, because they didn't go and try to do the disgruntled star thing too early. I would argue, do we even know if they have enough to be doing that? That was the Pistons trade deadline. Kind of broke my heart, kind of pissed me off. But they weren't going to immediately fix anything today.
Computers now
Let's
have
move on.
primary control.
Beautiful.
Primary control.
Beautiful.
Primary control.
Beautiful.
Primary control.
Beautiful.